In episode 6, John is taken to his new home, the Cameron household, and Ward asks him, hey, Sara needed a map for you. Please tell me you're not going after gold like your old man. But John lies to him and says, no, I'm not. I'm just a history buff. I probably got that from him. Don't worry. Later that day, he goes to hang out with his friends who definitely do not approve of his relationship with Sara, especially Ki. But he explains, look, Sara got us the map, and without that, we would have nothing. So they start looking at that map. And the thing with the map is, back when it was originally drawn, Tanny Plantation was basically the entire island. So all he needs to do is find that one spot that he was talking about. The problem is, when they do find that one spot, it's owned by a woman who apparently killed her husband. And this is an urban legend that's been passed around through the Outer Banks, but JJ says, no, I know for a fact it's true. Because her daughter used to babysit me. And when her daughter was 6 years old, she heard her parents fighting, but then all of a sudden it just stopped. She came downstairs and her mother's hands were covered in blood as she was washing them. The next day, the mom told her daughter that her parents were splitting up and she never saw her dad again. But what she did see was her mother continuously going to the parlor and bringing out plastic bags. And then one night when she went to use the bathroom, she looked down and she saw her father's head just staring back at her. Now, most of the group does not believe this, but JJ is 100% certain that this woman chopped up her husband. So they have to tread pretty gingerly on her territory. But at this point, she's really old and the property is very unkempt. So all they need to do is just look for water. The problem is they're not finding any. The only place they haven't searched is the house basement. So they go down there, but there's no water. There's just a bunch of mosquitoes. But that gets Pope wondering, why are there a bunch of mosquitoes down here when there's no water? Because mosquitoes breed in stagnant water. And the group is standing on a bunch of 2x4s, and Pope picks up a rock and drops it in between the 2x4s, and sure enough, there's water down below. When they take off those 2x4s, what they were actually standing on was the entrance to a well. So as the group was trying to find Parcel 9, the sheriff headed over to Scooter's widow's house to try to get some answers. She typed in the coordinates from Scooter's boat to see where he was going, and he was going to this desolate, remote island that nobody goes to. She wants to know why, but Scooter's widow isn't giving her any information, so she decides to head there on her own with her partner. And they start looking over the island really just to find anything out of the ordinary. And what they find looks like the set of Castaway along with John's dad's glasses. Sara, meanwhile, gets a visit from Topper, who tries one last plea to try to win her back, saying, I love you and this was supposed to be our summer, but she just doesn't want to hear it. When she blows him off, Topper blows a gasket and starts calling her a slut in her own house, and this alerts Ward, who jacks him up, choking him, and throws him out of the house. And this is really the first mean streak we've seen of Ward, although it won't be the last. The home visits continue in the Cameron household as Rafe gets a visit from the drug dealer Barry looking for his money, but Rafe doesn't have it. And Barry wants to know, why do you have all this nice stuff, but you don't have my money? Rafe reassures him, man, just give me another couple days, I'll get it to you. But Barry ends up grabbing his arm, burning it on the tailpipe of his bike, and taking that along with him and saying, you got 3 days. So needing to figure out a way to pay back the drug dealer, Rafe sneaks into his dad's office, goes into the safe and grabs some money. But when he closes it, Ward is standing there wanting to know what the hell he's doing. Rafe explains and the two drive on over to the drug dealer's house, and Ward throws him the money and says, there, we're even. But the drug dealer starts poking fun at Rafe and Ward, saying he's 19 years old and you're his little babysitter. But Ward finally hears enough and just starts beating the shit out of him. Rafe gets out of the car and is witnessing his dad just rail on this guy. And Rafe promises he'll pay back his dad, but his dad says, no, you won't, because you're a liar and a thief, and you're not trustworthy, and I can't have you in my house, so don't come back. At this point, though, John, Ki, Pope, and JJ have gotten back from the house, and John can't wait to tell Sara that they actually found the location of the gold. He invites her to come hang out with him that night and discuss their next plan of option, but Sara says, are you sure they're going to be cool with this? And John says, yeah, don't worry about it. But when they actually go to hang out, none of them are cool with it, especially Ki. She is infuriated. Ki actually gives him an ultimatum saying it's either her or me because I'm not staying if she's here. But John says, I'm not picking. I pick both of you guys, which backfires because they both end up leaving. And JJ is amazed at how awful John played that while Pope goes to console Ki. She's sitting on the dock crying about this, and she explains to Pope that when she started at the private school, Sara was her best friend. In fact, the first day, they saved sea turtles together, and it was the best day of her life. But then shortly after that, Sara turned on her like she does with everybody. And John is simply going to have to choose, but Pope looks at her and says he's too stupid for that. But I'll tell you right now, if it were up to me, it would be no competition. I know who I'd choose. Pope walks back to the house where John and JJ are waiting for a report, and he says, yeah, she thinks you're an idiot. So they concoct a plan to get both girls together to try to bury the hatchet. They trap Sara in the hull of a boat while luring Ki on there, saying that it's broken and they need her help. But as soon as she gets on the boat, they jump off and drive away, saying, you guys can figure out your differences. We'll be back in the morning. They were nice enough to leave food and weed, but both girls are pissed that they're stuck with one another. They end up lighting up that joint, but after a few hours, Ki finally says, all right, why did you do it? I was your best friend, and I had to find out that you were having a party on Instagram? what did I do to you? I mean, you let that rumor float around school that I broke up the party by calling the cops, and you never even had the courtesy to ask me if I did it. And Sara says, well, who else would have done it? You were the only one not there. And she says, exactly, why wasn't I there? And Sara goes on to explain that when people get really close to her, she feels trapped and she just bails, and that's what happened with Ki. She apologizes and says that she misses Ki and asks if they can ever be friends again, and Ki says, I don't know. But Ki does eventually apologize for calling the cops. As they try to go to sleep that night, Ki says, hey, please don't bail on John B because he really, really likes you. And Sara says, no, I won't. Don't worry. The next day, though, when the guys come to pick them up, they both agree not to let the guys know that this plan actually worked. So when the guys ask how it went, they said it didn't, but we've agreed to work together. So that night, the group heads to the house to try to find the gold, but there's motion sensor lights that trip. And Sara says, we'll just flip the breaker. It's on the porch. I used to play hide and go seek here when I was a kid. And Ki decides to go with her. But when they get to the porch, the breaker is no longer on the porch. Now it's in the house. They break into the house, find the breaker, and flip it. And as soon as the breaker is flipped, the guys head on into the basement and start going to work. The girls, for whatever reason, don't get the hell out of there. And as the guys are slowly guiding John B down the well, the rope slips and he ends up falling pretty far. He ends up making a lot of noise, which wakes up the old woman in the house, and she starts coming down the steps, and the girls still don't get the hell out of there. The girls end up making a break for it, but everywhere they turn, it seems like the woman has boarded up the house. So there's not many exits they can choose. John, meanwhile, has reached the bottom of the well and thinks he's found something with his foot, but when he goes down to get it, he finds a human jawbone, and he is freaked out. He frantically starts screaming, get me the hell out of here. And he even starts clawing to get up the well, but when he does, a bunch of bricks fall down, and it actually reveals another tunnel to another room. He decides to take that, and sure enough, he finds the gold. At this point, the girls have made their way out of the house and into the basement, but so is that old woman, and now she's armed with a shotgun. Luckily for the group, though, she's blind, and everybody makes it out of there unscathed and unshot. And as they're driving away, John pulls out a gold bar, and the group starts freaking out because they made it, and they're rich. Thank you for watching this recap. If you do not see the next one up in the corner right there on the end screen, don't worry, it'll be up shortly. Please consider following the channel. That'd be cool. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you don't, there's a thumbs down button for a reason.